again, we did Pasuk Yud. We're in chapter 92, Tzaddik Beis. And this is the Shabbos. This is the parak of Tehillim that starts with Mizmor Shel Yom HaShabbos. This is the Shir Shel Yom for Shabbos. This is the song in the Beis Hamikdash that the Leviim sang in the Beis Hamikdash. This is something that we're actually absolutely imitating exactly what was going on in the Beis Hamikdash. So you know that a lot of stuff that we do, good catch, Mrs. Morris. A lot of stuff that we do is parallel. We said this last week, parallel to the Avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. But now we're actually saying a parak of Tehillim on Shabbos that the Leviim said on Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash. So for me, that's very meaningful. We do it every day. Every day we have a Shir Shel Yom. Okay, so I just wanted to point out, we said this last week, Ki ne'ovecha Hashem, that Hashem has enemies. Ki ne'ovecha yovedu, but those enemies will eventually be destroyed. Yispardu kol palei oven, and anyone who does evil will be yitpardu, pirud. Pirud means separation. There'll be separation between the people who are doing evil. They'll be separated, or in the terminology of now, we'll say they'll fall apart. Their power will fall apart. Their dominion, their domain will fall apart. That's what happens to Poalei Oven, to those who do evil. So I want to just remind us of the fact that Hashem speaks to us daily. Hashem speaks to us every second, every nanosecond. The question is, how much are we paying attention? We're very, very busy doing the will of Hashem. And because we're very busy doing the will of Hashem, we're not always paying attention to the words of Hashem, and that's okay. Let's say, for example, you're a worker in a store, or you're a worker you're an employee. So when you're an employee and your employer is, talking to you, stop just to be friendly, and a customer comes in, and you focus on the customer. Are you ignoring your employer to focus on the customer? No, you're actually doing a favor for your employer by focusing on the customer, because it's his business, it's your employer's business. You want to make money for him. So that's what we get when Avram Avinu was talking to Hashem, and the angels came, and he didn't know that they were angels, and he wanted to serve them, and he said to Hashem, please wait here while I go and serve your people. And so all of that is the idea of Hashem is always speaking to us. The question is, how often do we have time to listen and to tune in? Hashem definitely is speaking to the world, in my opinion. I'm not so humble, but in my opinion, Hashem is speaking to the world very loudly now in terms of what's going on in current events. No one can be an ostrich in this world in terms of current events, simply because the reason you cannot be an ostrich and ignore is because every day there's new rules coming out about what you can do, what you can't do, where you can go. I don't know, I'll ask you later about how your Seger is in England, but here, what's happening every day, there's a new idea. Now they're going to open up some of the malls. They've been opening up some of the stores. Some people say it is good to have a lockdown in the Ministry of Health. Some people say it's terrible to have a lockdown. Yes, masks, no masks. You can't ignore what's going on now in planet Earth. It used to be that you could. I told you that for many, many years, I absolutely had nothing to do with the secular world. I didn't listen to news. I didn't listen to anything. I didn't know who the president was. In America, I needed to have like a cleanse. I did a many, many years cleanse of media. And that was even before the media was bad. And so, and then it didn't matter, nothing affected my life. Not knowing what was going on in the world did not affect my life. Now, not knowing what's going on in the world can affect your life, because every single day there are new things happening. And so, by the way, I want to say the shir for the refuah shlema of anybody who needs it, and for the Yeshua of everyone who needs. Everybody think in your mind, say out loud, don't unmute yourself, but just say the name of the people in your life that need big Yeshuot, because we're in a very strong month of Kislev. Kislev is a month of davening, as you all davened. Yesterday I was privileged to be in London for the 9 minutes of the special davening. It was Israeli 9 minutes. It was not there in London, so I didn't stop the shir. But it's a very big month of prayer, Kislev, because the picture in the sky of Kislev is the bow like the bow and the arrow. And Chazal tell us that with a bow, the more you pull it back, when you finally release it, it goes further. And so with tefillah, with talking to Hashem, the more you internalize, the more you go into yourself, and you pull back, meaning you don't pull back to withdraw, but you go into the deepest part of who you are, and then you let go of it. It goes far, far up. So it's a time of tefillah. So say whoever needs Yeshua's. I'm looking on some of the names. I'm thinking about the people that you told me about who need Yeshua. So you think about them in your family and in the world. Okay, so what does it mean? Yispardu kol palei oven, that all people who are doing bad will fall apart. So now it means that it's a positive and a negative. The positive is a major message to the Jewish people, and that is that our nuclear reactor is not only in Dimona. We have it's supposed to be a big secret, but the whole world knows. We have in Dimona, in the south, a little bit of a nuclear something going on there, but that's not where our power is. And our power is not in our brain, even though we're very smart. Hashem gifted us. And our power is not in our money that we know how to manage. Our power is in our unity. That's what we know. Am Yisrael, when we're an Am, then we have the power of Yisrael. So here when it says Yispardu kol palei oven, that how does Hashem weaken negativity in this world, whether it's a negative political power, whether it's a negative commercial power, whether it's a negative philosophy? How does Hashem when Hashem decides it's enough, this evil has been in the world enough, how does Hashem weaken it? He separates everything into different. He separates the people who were unified into machlokas. He makes arguments. He makes division. He makes jealousy. He makes competition. If you look through any government that fell, look through communism. That was the one that fell in our generation. How did that happen? And all of a sudden now, what we used to call USSR, the United, is now a bunch of countries. The whole thing fell apart. Communism fell apart, and it became, instead of one block of power, it became 15 different little countries, and each one of them is just struggling to survive. But Hashem just destroyed. He dissolved. It's a better word, dissolved. Hashem dissolved the whole communist structure in Russia by just making separations between them. Because how did it happen? Go back and you'll read in the 1980s what was going on within the Soviet bloc, within the government, within the people who were in power, backstabbing, not just culture. There were a lot of cultural differences also between the different groups within Russia. So Hashem makes people have self-interests that exclude other self-interests, and that's how Hashem just dissolves evil. So we see that in the world, and in America is dividing into two. And as many of the current rabbis who analyze Torah and current events talk about, for example, Rabbi Kessin, both Rabbi Kessins and Rabbi Sikorsky from Far Rockaway, people who are not afraid to look at the current events and offer an opinion, an independent opinion, they're all saying that America is dividing into the Tov Sheba Esav and the Ra Sheba Esav, the good of Esav and the evil of Esav. As we see in our parshios, these parshios in the month of Kislev are all about Yaakov and Esav and their relationship. And the fact is that Esav is our uncle. He's blood to us. He's a blood uncle. He's not like Ishmael. We call the Arabs here our cousins. They're not really our cousins, but that's how we determine, the terminology that we use here when we want to talk about, is the Arab plumber coming or is the Jewish plumber coming? We'll say, is it a cousin or is it a brother? I once had that in my experience traveling in the States. I'll tell you a funny story because I like to share with you stories, and I have a drop of extra time today. like another 10 minutes. And here's a 5-minute, 2-minute story. So I travel in a mitpacha and I wear this, it's very comfortable. I wear a shirt when I go to America. If I have to put on a wig, I wear a wig. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. It's 100% kosher. So, and the truth is that in America, sometimes I wear a sheitel because it disappears. People don't notice you. In the summer, if you're wearing something on your head, they think that you're a Muslim. And in the winter, you can wear a hat, a furry hat. People will think that you're cold. So, but in the summertime, if I go, so I was once traveling. Some of you know the story. I was once traveling, and I got off the plane, and I was just too tired to put my sheitel back on. So I just kept my mitpachet on, and I go to the passport control, and by accident, I had food in my carry-on. And in those days, it was just when they were saying you cannot have food in your carry-on. Like they gave you a thing to fill out, a customs passport declaration. And in it, it said, do you have insects, live, raw meat, although, you always do no, 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 no. But they added on food. Now, of course, what Jew travels without food? Of course I had food. I had food in my carry-on, but I didn't check food because I didn't check the box because I was used to saying no, 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 because I don't have live animals, livestock. I haven't been on the farm. All those, I don't know if you know that what I'm talking about, but that whatever it was, I checked no for food when indeed I had food. So this was like in the beginning when they were just changing their passports. This is going back 10, 15 years ago. They were changing their passport rules. And I was waiting for my luggage by the carousel, and all of a sudden a dog comes over to me and starts sniffing my carry-on. That I was, and there's a man attached to the dog. He was a customs inspector, and he says to me, "Can I see your customs form?" And I showed him. He said, "Do you have food in that thing in your bag?" I said, "Maybe." He said, "Well, do you realize that you checked that you do not have food?" I said, "Oh." I didn't really notice it. Maybe I did, and I was like a little bit like I didn't want to bother. But I said, I don't have fresh food. I just have like a sandwich. I have like food from the plane, whatever. My rice cakes, chocolate. Anyway, he said he took my passport control thing. He made a big red X on it. He took out of like his pocket a big red marker, makes a big red X on my thing, like to get me back as a teacher for putting all red X's on my students' test papers from all those years. And he says, okay, when you go out, you have to go to this special customs guy. I said, are you going to arrest me? He said, no, you're just going to have to take out the food. I said, okay. And I went out to the special customs guy, like where all the criminals have to stand because they have food in their bag. And the customs guy has a name tag on it, and his name is Mohammed, whatever. So he was an Arab, an American Muslim Arab. So he looks at me, he looks at my thing. I said to him, listen, I have food. I forgot that I had food. And, he said, okay, take out the food. I had to open up my thing. My big criminal, I had an orange in there. That I bring in fruit, big crime. Okay, I said, can I eat it right now? He said, no, this is property of the United States government. You can't eat it, you have to toss it, you have to dump it out. Chaval, a good orange, I had to throw it out. Anyway, then he looks at my head, I was wearing a mitpach, and he says to me like this, he says, is that a hijab? So I said, and I look at his thing, his Mohammed, I said, it's a hair covering. So he said, that's what I said. I said, is it a hijab? So I said to him, it's a hair covering. I didn't want to use the Arab word. I knew what that word meant. And then he looks at my thing, looks at my passport, and he looks at me, he sees I'm from Israel. He says, oh, are you a sister? Are you my sister? So I said to him, I'm your cousin. But cousins can also be friends. That's just what I said to him. So he paused for a few seconds. He says, you're right. And he let me go. So we call our Arabs cousins. But really, Yishmael's our uncle. His kids are really our cousins. So the tzaddikim are telling us in this generation that there's a sifting going on in the world. I don't know how it is in England, if you're up to that yet, or if it's past. It could be that it's fallen already. It's done, it's a lost cause. But in America now, there's a sifting going on between the Tov Sheba Esav, the good part of Esav. The good part of Esav gave birth to converts, for all those holy converts that are on. Esav gave birth to not just you guys, but to Rabbi Akiva, to Tanaim, Shmaya and Avtalion, the Rebbes of Hillel and Shammai. Rebbe Meir, all of these were converts from Esav. Ad kadei kach, to the point where Esav's progeny are very, very strong in the tradition of Torah Sheba'al Peh, the converts, the ones who converted. So in America now, there's a revolution, a civil war going on between the right and the left. And that's what it means. Yispartu kol palei aven. Hashem is going to show who's the right, who's the left, who's right, who's correct, and who's wrong. Hashem's going to show that. We can only choose a side and then hold on tight. Our side is God and the Torah. That's it. And there are people on the left who are also choosing God and the Torah and their interpretation of God and the Torah in the way that manifests over there. But for us right now, we know that we need to be whenever there's, like in the world, whenever there's civil wars going on in the world, the Jewish people have to be very, very careful to stay unified. Because if the energy of Yisparzu Kol Palei Aven, if the energy of separation is coming into the world, if the energy of civil war means a war between brothers, if the energy of such a argument is actually turning violent in America, that means that Jews, we have to be very, very vigilant about the opposite, and that is about respecting each other. Hashem says, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha" doesn't mean I have to love you passionately. What if I don't like you? What if you're my neighbor that's so annoying, right? So what does it mean I'm supposed to love you? I love you like a sister, and sisters could be annoyed with each other. Who do you get the most annoyed with? Is the people in your family, your husband, your wife, your kids, your siblings. So, but what does it mean in terms of lehalacha? Lehalacha, it means we need to treat each other with dignity. Lehalacha is, Rabbi Akiva said this, what you don't like, don't do to somebody else. That's how we have to be now, very, very vigilant to be unified, especially because of the separation going on in the world and in the mightiest country in the world, in America. So I wanted to just bring that point out. Okay, now let's continue. Vatzaret, so we're on chapter 92 in Tehillim. Now, one second. I dropped you. I dropped me, actually. 1 second. Chapter 92, verse 11. Perak Tzadik Beis, Pasuk Yud Aleph. Okay, now, the Baal HaMizmor. Now, remember we're saying, who wrote this Perak of Tehillim? We have 3 identities. First, Shabbos wrote it. There's an opinion that says that this somehow Mizmor Shir Liyom Shabbos is not just we say it on Shabbos, but somehow Shabbos wrote that. I don't want to talk about how that could be because time has identity, or Adam Harishon wrote it on that first Shabbos, or David HaMelech edited, and Moshe Rabbeinu. This is in Moshe Rabbeinu's 11 chapters of Tehillim that he wrote. So here we're going back to Vatzarim Kirim Kani. After the evil people will be destroyed, will be separated and then dissolved, then my re'im, my strength will be elevated. Now listen, the word re'im is an animal that is very proud. It's like a lion, but it's not really a lion. It's some kind of we don't have that animal anymore. It's some kind of a biblical animal, a buffalo, something with big giant horns, a reindeer. That's where maybe they got the idea of making reindeers in their holiday now. With Rudolph.
Could it be a unicorn?
Could be a unicorn. The Medrash tells us that all of these are possible explanations of the word re'im, but the idea of a re'im is it's an animal that has a huge majesticness to it, whether it's because of the horns or because of the tallness of it. So now, my Karen means my honor. My honor, and the word Karen is always associated with Mashiach. My Karen, Karen David, right? David HaMelech was anointed with a Karen of Shemen. Excuse me. So my power, my honor, my Mashiachtic honor will be elevated after the evil will be dissolved. And baloti b'shemen ra'anan. The word baloti means I will be renewed. Like when you have a skin, how you call that when you get your skin done, a facial. When you have a facial, it's because you want your skin to be like childlike. That's called baloti. I want my skin, I want my being to be saturated with shemen. Shemen is oil. Shemen is a beautifier. It means oil, it means olive oil. Smear some olive oil on your skin, and you'll be doing an ancient biblical beauty treatment. Just olive oil. So that's going to happen as a result of the evil in the world being dissolved and being separated. Then Mashiach will come, and I will be exalted. I, meaning the Jewish people, meaning Hashem's presence in the world, meaning Shabbos will be exalted in the world. And then what happens at that point? What happens? What does a Jew do when we get powerful? So really what we do is we just thank Hashem. That's really what a Jew who's holding on to reality, a Jew who's real, a Jew who knows what reality is. When we get gifts, we just thank Hashem, and we try to use those gifts in the best way possible. Be'ezrat Hashem, when you have children, you have grandchildren, great grandchildren already, you want to talk about. So what do? What does that mean that you're blessed with that? The prayer of every Jewish woman is that the child should grow up to be a good Jew, to bring godly presence into this world. That's why we want to have kids. We don't want to have kids just to have a big family. We want to have kids that we should be able to teach them Torah, and that they should be another link in the chain of tradition going back to Moshe Rabbeinu. So what happens when we'll finally be victorious? What's going to happen? We're not going to say to the world, "Ha ha, I told you so." No, we're not going to say to the world, you tried to destroy us, and now we are, we're not going to destroy you because we're better than you. We're not going to do any of that. What Chazal tell us is going to happen when Mashiach comes is that each one of us is going to turn into a teacher, not necessarily over Zoom and not necessarily in a classroom, but we're all going to be ambassadors of God to either the non-Jewish people that we know or to the non-religious Jews that we know. Each of us is going to become a teacher, a sharer. We're going to share our truth. And guess what? You're not going to have to look for customers. You're not going to have to send out a link and hope that people come to the shiur. You're going to be bombarded with people asking you, please explain to me how to do Shabbos. Please explain to me what charity is. What's modesty? Why do you do modesty? One of my students here in Eretz Yisrael told us that she actually she very much inspired to come to Israel and to learn about Judaism because she read a book on modesty. I forgot the name of the book, but it was written by a woman who actually came to speak in Neve, a woman who herself was a secular Jew, but she just liked the concept of modesty. And she began researching, is modesty a Jewish thing? And she learned that modesty is a major Jewish thing. And that made her come to start learning Torah. And this woman, one of my students read that book. She found it like an English bookstore because it was published not as a religious book. And she came to learn. So that's what we're going to be doing. When my eyes are going to see those people who went against me, and I'm going to see that they are going to be fall. And when evil people go against me, Tishmana Oznai, I was given a heads up, so to speak. Hashem showed me what's happening there. Hashem is reminding me that there are, I was taught about that they're going to come. And here, the Mefarshim explained to us something very, very, a little bit frightening, but if you know it as a heads up, then you won't be scared. Here we spoke about, in verse 10, we spoke about the downfall of all the enemies. And in verse 11, Pasuk Yud Aleph, we spoke about that now I'm going to be exalted, the Jewish people is going to be exalted, Hashem's presence will be exalted in this world. So good, so that's the end of the story. No, it's not the end of the story. What happens is that they're going to still be people who are not going to accept the verdict of Hashem, and they're going to still fight. They're going to still argue. They won't concede that God is God and that Mashiach is here and that morality exists, etc. They won't concede. But Hashem has told me already about this, that they're going to be, even after Mashiach comes, there's going to still be a remainder of people who are going to fight till the end. That's called Amalek. They don't necessarily come from the tribe of Amalek, but that's the concept of Amalek, that even after Hashem shows us goodness will prevail in the world, there's going to be a core of people who cannot tolerate goodness. But the Mefarshim say, the Razak says, I know that they'll also be dissolved, be destroyed. So I'm not worried when I see them, when I see this happening, when I see that I think, oh, Mashiach is here already. And then I still have enemies, I'm not going to be upset because I know, Tishmana Oznai, I heard already, my ears heard that eventually they will also fall apart. They'll also be destroyed. Just like in 1948. Think about it. In World War II, Nebuch, what happened? Hashem made what happened happen. And then finally the Jews came to Eretz Yisrael. In 1948, the world declared that we can indeed survive. They're sorry. Sorry we tried to kill you out. Now we won't try to kill you out anymore. We'll give you a place. We'll give you a place to live, okay? And as soon as the declaration of Israeli independence happened, right away the Arabs attacked us. Here we thought, finally we have a refuge, a place of refuge, and a place of safety for Jews to go. No, the Arabs attacked us. What did Hashem do? He shooed them away. He allowed us to be victorious. Every single time it happens that the Mashiach comes closer and closer, the Geula comes closer and closer, one step, two steps forward, there's always going to be some Amalek there who's going to try to mess up the whole thing. We see it happen again and again. We see it happen in our history. When we finally got out of Mitzrayim, right? We got out of Mitzrayim, and then we're a week out of Mitzrayim, and we turn around, we see the whole Egyptian army is running after us. Hashem had to make a miracle to split the Red Sea. It's a pattern that continues in Jewish history. Until it's over, it's not over. And even when we think it's over, we think, okay, now we're having, let's say, a relief. There's something good in the world. Then Hashem brings, another challenge. But Tishmana Oznai, but my ear, the Radak says, but my ears have already heard the news. It's as if it happened already. My ears know, I have a heads up. This is going to happen. Don't be frightened. Just keep going. Keep holding on. And now we finally come to the end of the parak. Tzadik katamar yifrach. Ultimately, who's going to be the most famous on the headlines of the reformed, fixed Baal Tshuva New York Times and London Times, right? All of those newspapers right now are evil. They're very bad people, but they're going to do tshuva, or they won't exist anymore. But if they're going to exist when Mashiach comes, they're going to do tshuva. They're going to say, I'm sorry. They're going to put a big headline, whatever, however God is great. We apologize. And then who's going to be the headlines? It's tzaddikim are going to be in the headlines. Not going to be wars, not going to be famines, not going to be tsunamis, not going to be anything. Mashiach is going to be in the headlines. The Mashiach Shir, there's going to be a class for Mashiach, a class of Mashiach for beginners, for intermediate, for advanced, for B'nai Noach, for non-Jews who have no idea about anything. There's going to be all kinds of information on the newspapers when Mashiach comes. That's called tzaddik katamar yifrach. The tzaddik will eventually blossom yifrach like perach. Perach means a flower. Katamar, like a tamar tree. A tamar tree. So here in Eretz Yisrael, we have lots of. It's native to Eretz Yisrael, the tamar trees, And if any of you ever, when you remember, you come to Eretz, you come to the airport right away, the first thing you see are those beautiful palm trees that line all the streets. And I don't know if you ever noticed this, but in every town, we don't have it in Yerushalayim Kodesh because Yerushalayim is a big city, but in every town, whether it's a yishuv, a smaller town, whether it's a moshav, whether it's a small town like Beitar and all of those little cities, at the drive in Maladumim, they have this on the drive up to the town before you get to the guy in the booth that's checking you out, the security person. Right before the security person, and right afterwards, there's always a long road to get into the town, and it's very much manned by cameras and all that. But they're all date palm trees that are lining the entrance to every small city, town, yishuv, moshav, kibbutz in Israel. That became like the way that the municipalities decided to have a camaraderie between towns and to make like a symbol. So that's a symbol of Israel. It's a day palm tree, just like we have a flag and we have the Knesset logo. We have also palm trees. So the tzaddik is going to blossom like palm trees. What does that mean? If you look at the word yifrach, right? So in the word there we have perach. Perach means flowers. That's one of the reasons that you adorn your Shabbos table with flowers. Did you know that? You might have wondered, like, why flowers? Why it became a custom for Jews to bring flowers on Erev Shabbos? Because you want your table to be beautified. Okay, so why with flowers? Why not with anything else? The reason is because flowers represent Mashiach. It represents the beauty of goodness, the beauty of Torah being visually displayed in your house, on your table. Why? Because the word perach is associated with tzaddikim. Tzaddikim are called the flowers of our nation. Just like our children are also called our prachim, and the kohanim are also called prachim, the young kohanim in training. They're not called kohanim in training, right? CIT, for those of you Americans. CIT in America used to be called counselor in training, but there's kohanim in training, and they're called pirchei, the flowers of the kahuna. In other words, the hope, the beauty. So that's why now when you're going to put flowers on your Shabbos table, now you're going to say the flowers represent the beauty of Shabbos, the beauty of Judaism, the beauty of Mashiach. Every week we're asking Hashem, please bring Mashiach. And since Shabbos is Me'ein Olam Haba, it's like a little bit of Olam Haba, which is going to be after Mashiach comes. So we put those flowers on our Shabbos tables. Now you know why. Ke'erez balvanon yiskeh. And when Mashiach comes, the tzaddik won't just be...
Rochel, somebody just asked if what the source is of the flowers of Mashiach.
Here, I just showed you this pasuk.
So this is the pasuk of that. Okay.
This is the pasuk. This is a pasuk that shows us that Mashiach, one of the psukim, there are many psukim. Mashiach is nimshal, is how do we say that? Is compared to many different things in this world. One of them is beautiful flowers. Tzadik katamar yifrach. It's going to beautify like the tamar tree, right? But it uses the word yifrach, will blossom, as opposed to the next one. The next word here, remember we're learning Tehillim, we know that the second phrase of the pasuk is repeated, and it's for emphasis and for more elaboration. So the second part of the pasuk says, not only is Mashiach going to be like a beautiful tamar tree with beautiful flowers and beautiful fruit, but also like an erez. An erez, which is actually a name, and a lot of people in Israelis like to make names up. And so Erez is a very popular Israeli name for boys. It means a cedar tree. Now, a cedar tree is not native to Eretz Israel, but it is native to Lebanon, to our neighbors to the north, which is probably biblical Israel anyway. And so a cedar tree is not about fruit and flowers, it's about strength. So here we see that Mashiach is compared to a beautiful flower, delicious tamar tree, and a strong fragrant cedar tree. Okay, so now I want to just point out to you the most amazing teaching brought down by all the Hasidic rabbis about the word Tzadik Katamar Yifrach. So you know that people are, many of you might be concerned when Mashiach comes, what's going to happen to, to Aunt Gladys, let's say. Aunt Gladys is your old great aunt who has no idea about Judaism. She never was raised Jewish. Maybe she was, post-Holocaust, and maybe she had who knows what. But Aunt Gladys is very far away from Judaism. But you love her because she's your Aunt Gladys. What are you going to do? What's going to happen to her when Mashiach comes? She doesn't know, or maybe she knows, but she's too broken to hold on to Judaism. Or what's going to happen to those people who were like, bad? Uncle Irving, who wasn't just like Aunt Gladys, but Uncle Irving was like a criminal. He was bad news. He's alive, and he's bad news, and whatever. But you love him. He's your uncle. What could you do? So what's going to happen to him when Mashiach comes? So our rabbis tell us that there's hope for every single Jew. Here, it's buried in this pasuk. I'll show you how. In the words Tzadik Katamar Yifrach, look at the last letters of those first three words. The last letters of Tzadik is a kuf, and the last letter of Katamar is a resh, and the last letter of Yifrach is a chet. Spells out the name of somebody in the Torah that did not have a great track record for, like living in a righteous society. Rather, he was one of those guys who made he was trying to make a civil war. And we learned that civil war for Jews is absolutely devastating. It weakens us. And his name was Korach, Moshe Rabbeinu's cousin. And here we see that Korach in the end, because it's the end letters, so now we're gonna learn an amazing teaching. Whenever we have something called an acrostic means you have words that are written in a pasuk, in a verse, but their first letters of the words, of consecutive words, spell out another word. Or the final letters of those consecutive words spell out another word. That's one of the ways of learning Torah, looking at the hidden codes within the Torah. Here's one of them. It's not so hidden. It's pretty. This one's an obvious one. The final letters spell out Korach. That means that in the end, because it's a final letters, in the end, even a person like Korach will have a redemption. So even in Gladys and Uncle Irving, Hashem's going to figure out a way to help them to do tshuva. How do we know? Because if they're your aunt and your uncle and you care for them, that means that there's something about you in them. Some connection between you, who is a righteous Jewish tzadikah, and them. So because there's a connection between you and them, somehow they're going to have a redemption. Now, in general, when you learn Tehillim, one of the amazing things about Tehillim, which is why we could learn it forever and ever, it's about Torah, Chumash, Tehillim, really Tanakh, is that there are so many, probably infinite number of codes with letters, words that are being formed from other words. And so this is just a little taste of them. But you can, if you pick out a Tehillim that's especially beloved by you, probably you could find a code in there in Hebrew. Now I'm going to explain to you the different kinds of codes that exist. First letters, that's an easy code. Like, for example, the first three words in Torah, you know them by heart. Bereshit, bara, Elokim, right? Bereshit, bara, Elokim, bet, aleph, right? So there's a code in there. Some people joke and say that's where the bubbies are so important, because bet, aleph is bubba, right? Or you could look at the word Bereshit, starts with bet, resh, aleph, and bara is bet, resh, aleph. So we see that there's so many codes in Torah, so many, like infinite. That's called the type of Torah learning called remez. Remez means a hint. You can, if you really, really look hard, you can probably find your own name hinted in Torah, in Tehillim, in whatever is precious to you. And there are many, many of them. For example, here, anybody who's Tamar, here we said about Tamar. We said here, Tzadik Tamar Yifrach. So in the parak of Tehillim that we say every single day, the one right after Ashrei in Shacharis, it says, Hashomer, that God is, Hashem is Hashomer Emet Leolam. Hashem is, he holds on to truth forever. Hashem is constantly and consistently and only connecting to truth. He doesn't like falsehood. So Tzaddik, Tamar Yifrach, for those of you whose name is Tamar, so Tzaddik, no, I'm sorry, so Hashomer Emet Leolam, the Sofei Tevot is Tamar, and the beginning Tevot, the beginning letters is Leah. You have Leah's name in there. You have Tamar's name in there. Names are hidden in the entire Tehillim. It's good to look for your names. In olden days, when Rebbes, when there were Rebbes in the world, that were many of them. Did I get lost? 1 second. Did I get frozen? No? Okay, good. So when there were Rebbes in the world, they used to give each other birthday presents, a birthday card. What kind of birthday card do you give to a Rebbe? So the Rebbes would give each other birthday cards. How would they give each other a birthday card? Every year, let's say you wanted to give your Rebbe, let's say you were a tzaddik and you wanted to give your tzaddik friend a birthday card, you would find a pasuk in Tehillim alluding to his name, alluding to his family, alluding to his book. People, that's how they would give love letters. They would find psukim. They would find words that alluded to names. That was considered like the biggest love letter, because it's hard work to look for somebody's name in a pasuk. Okay, so here we see Korach's name. Even Korach will have a redemption. So, but really it's talking about the Mashiach. The Mashiach, the tzaddikim will be powerful. When Mashiach comes, they'll be powerful, they'll be beautiful, they'll be admired, they'll be strong. Shetulim b'veit Hashem, and they'll be planted in Hashem's house in the Beit HaMikdash. B'chatzrot Elokeinu yafrichu, and where will they develop the most? In the Chatzer of Hashem, in the Beit HaMikdash of Hashem. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be a Beit HaMikdash. I know it's like you have to really expand your imagination to try to look at the kotel and realize that the kotel is going to be just the outer wall, and we're going to be on the other side of the kotel. Sometimes I feel, even though the Gemara says that the Hashem's presence never left the kotel, that's why you like to go there, because Hashem's presence is there. But why is Hashem's presence by the kotel? Because he knew that until Mashiach comes, we're not going to be on the other side. So sometimes I've been by the kotel and I feel like I feel like the kotel is sort of like a barrier. Even though we love it, we kiss it, we hug it, we cry on it, we put our little notes in it. But it's a barrier. It's not we're supposed to be on the other side, in the Beis HaMikdash. So where does a tzaddik flourish? In the Beis HaMikdash. What does that mean? Each one of us is called a tzaddik. Did you know that? If you read Pirkei Avos in the summertime, we read Pirkei Avos from Pesach until Rosh Hashanah. So if you read Pirkei Avos, you see that the beginning of Pirkei Avos tells us V'amech kulam tzadikim. Before and after every parak, every chapter, we say psukim, and one of the psukim that we say is Kol Yisrael yesh lam chelek la'olam haba. Every Jew has a portion of the world to come. Shenemar, as it says, Ve'amech kulam tzadikim. Every Jew is a tzaddik. You have to be really, really messed up to lose your portion of the world to come. It's just a matter of what kind of portion you have in the world to come. But there's a portion in the world to come for every single Jew. And Gladys and Uncle Irving, they have like a small portion. Their portion is going to be like small, but they have the ability to expand it. But to lose your portion of Olam Haba, that's very hard for a Jew to do. So we all have a portion, and we're all called tzaddikim, says the Navi. Ve'amech kulam tzaddikim. All of us, on a certain level, we're all called Hashem's little tzaddik. Now, you know when you call your little child or your little grandchild tzaddik, right? you're calling them that name because you also want them to be it. You want them to grow into it. But really, every Jew is a tzaddik, so we're all going to be tzaddik katama yifrach, not just Mashiach, that's first level, not just all the tzaddikim, that's the second level, but even every Jew, third level, is going to be into the Beis Hamikdash. We're going to flourish, we're going to flower, we're going to expand. Don't be afraid of Mashiach coming. It's going to be amazing. Don't be afraid. Hashem will help each one of our souls to develop and to expand, to be able to be receiving the light of Hashem. Od Yinuvun B'Seva. Now listen, what's going to be these tzaddikim, Mashiach, and all the Talmidei Chachamim, and us? We're going to get very, very old. We're going to live for a very long time. And we'll still be fruitful. Because in our seva, in our old age, we're going to be still, Yinuvun means we're still going to be producing, we'll be giving, we'll still be able to help people. It's not going to be like today where old people are, either put in a nursing home or, you take care of them, but you don't really value them. Or if you do value them, how much can a young great-granddaughter relate to her old, wrinkled great-grandmother? It's not so easy. But whatever it is, we'll be productive in our seva. Now, it also means that the Jewish people, even when Mashiach comes, we won't say, okay, this is the end of the story. We'll heave a sigh of relief. We'll say, we made it, Baruch Hashem. It's not going to be like that. We're going to then have a lot of work to do, as I said before. We're going to have a lot of teaching to do, a lot of sharing. We've already begun, right? We've already begun, the seed that we're in, you're right, or the seed people, right? This is a seed shear, and all of the Balei Tshuvas, the Balei Tshuva schools, and all of the programs, we've already begun to open up to everybody. But when Mashiach comes, even when we're old, we'll be productive. The Shenim, we're going to be the Ra'ananim, we're going to be Deshen. Deshen means we're going to be fat. And Ra'anan, we're going to be fresh. We're not going to be old and wrinkled. We're going to be fat in a good way, full. Not like raisins, but like big fat grapes, still juicy. Not like dried dates, but like the fresh dates. Last week in my yarkan across the street, my vegetable guy, the vegetable store, when I went to a little bit of shopping, we covered Shabbos, and he showed me he got fresh figs. Figs. I love figs. But I said, and he said, now there are no worms. He says, it's easy to check them. He showed me, and they're fat, they're fresh, they're not dried. The dried figs that you get, the ones that by the way, you don't get dried figs. Here in Israel, we get dried figs from Turkey because it's cheaper, right? We get it from them, whatever. But the dried figs are dried. They're sweet. It's true, they're sweet, but they're dry. They're wrinkled and, powdery, and the seeds are inside. You have to pull them out. A fresh fig, it's red and juicy. You open it up, you turn it inside out, make sure nothing's moving in there. I made a shachayanu. And that's what's going to be. In other words, when Mashiach comes, we're going to be revitalized. Ladies, we don't realize how we're just struggling to survive in the last few milliseconds till Mashiach comes and reveals himself. We're going through stuff. Everybody's going through stuff. Don't think you're alone. Everybody has stuff. Hashem is refining us, and he's giving us more and more credits in our pouch so that our Olam Haba is bigger and bigger. But everybody's going through stuff. So it's not going to be just a heaving of a sigh of relief. That's going to happen. We're going to definitely have a heaving sigh of relief. Like now, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're all waiting for the big the big parade that we're going to give Jonathan and Esther Pollard, Be'ezrat Hashem, when they come. I'm sure they're going to try to sneak in privately, And I'm sure someone's going to say to them, no, you have to be public. We have to say thank you, whatever. They're private people. But whatever it is, we all heaved a sigh of relief when we're giving good news. But then comes a whole new era of, okay, now what? So Mashiach is going to come. We're going to be fat again. We're going to be contributing again. Lahagid ki Yashar Hashem, because we're going to finally be able to say, Hashem, everything you did was right. Suri, Hashem, you're my rock. You never abandoned us. Velo avla sabo. There's nothing wrong in you. There's nothing imperfect in you. We will finally see. We will finally see that everything that happened to us was a big blessing. And right now, it's impossible for our brains to understand that. We can believe it. Think about the worst things that ever happened to you. Think about the worst things that you ever did in your life. Think about the difficulties, the challenges. How could that be good? So we believe, okay, Hashem, I believe, I need mom, and I believe that you're good, but I don't see it, and I don't experience it as good. I experience it as painful. It's a painful memory. I wish it didn't happen. I wish I hadn't gone through that, etc., etc. When Mashiach comes, we're going to see that Hashem is Yashar. Now, in Tehillim, Rav Yitzchak Ginsburg points out that the word Yashar in Tehillim and the word Shir are always interchangeable. Shir means a song, like Shir Hamalot, a song that lifts you up. Yashar and Shir have the same letters, Yud, Shin, Resh, or Shin, Yud, Resh, right? So a Shir is a song of joy, and a Yashar is when things are straight. Hashem is Yashar. We're going to see everything was Yashar. Not just it was Yashar, but we're going to sing about it. So for example, let's say you can cast your mind back to when you were in school and you had to take a test in, I don't know, math. I was a math teacher for many years. I don't know how people still liked me after that, but a lot of people don't like math. So let's say you had a math test and you didn't do well. Okay, you were nervous about it. You took this, you were dreading the test. You finally took it. You were miserable during the test, and you got a disappointing grade when you got the test back. Okay, so now, what do? You say to your teacher, "Can I take a retest?" So your teacher says to you, "You really want a retest?" Yeah. Now that I know what the test is like, I'm going to study harder. I want to try again. So now you tell that to your mother. You say, "Ma, I asked the teacher for a retest," and your mother says, "A retest? The whole house has been going crazy. You've been driving us crazy for a week before. You're dreading it. You're upset. You can't eat. You can't sleep. You're so nervous. Why would you want it again? Just move on." And the student says, "No, but now I got it. Like now I get it, and I'm prepared to take a retest, even though it's going to make you nervous again. Yeah, even though it's going to make us all crazy again. Yeah." Even though you're going to lose sleep over it for the next couple of days, yeah, I want to do it again. Maybe when Mashiach comes, we're going to have a clarity that so many of the things that we had in our life were just a retest. And that Hashem never ever lets you get a lower grade. You are always advancing. Our souls are always evolving. We do not go backwards. Rabbi Nachman from Wrestling teaches us this. We are always going up. So you think you failed. Let's say you had a fight with your kids and now no one's talking to each other and the house is tense. You know what? You did better this test than you did last time. Whether last time was in a previous life or last time was in this life. How do I know? Because Hashem never gives us a test that we don't improve. Remember that people said they learned that Hashem doesn't give you a test that you can't pass? And then people will say that's so not true because I had a test and I failed it. I failed, I did the wrong thing, I said the wrong thing, I felt the wrong thing, whatever. No, it's not true. Hashem will not give you a test that you'll get a worse mark on than the last time you tried that same test. So right now it looks like you failed, but guess what? It's better than last time. And you might get the test again. And if you get the test again, it's because Hashem is saying, guess what? You can do better. That's called lahagid. We're going to say ki yashar Hashem. And we're not going to just say it lahagid, but we're going to sing it, because yashar is shir, is the same words as shir, to sing. Suri Hashem, you're my rock. They made that even an expression by the secular world. You are my rock. It means I trust you, I rely on you. So now the second to last word is read as if there was a vav there. It's written ayin lamed tav hey, which means olata. Olata means evil or wrongdoing. And avlata, here we read it differently. So the Mefarshim explain, a lot of times we have a hard time with this fairness, like God's not fair. Why is God not fair? It looks like it's wrong. And here, the reason it's written, one of the infinite reasons it's written one way and read another way, is to pay attention. Pay attention. I know you think that things are wrong, but really things are right. V'lo avlatabo, there's nothing wrong in him. There's nothing wrong in Hashem. Even though you might think that there is, but there's nothing wrong in Hashem. Even Eov talks about the same word, and he says in the end, ve'olatatik patspiha, we say that in davening, that evil will shut its mouth. We're waiting to see that already. Right now, evil has a big mouth, and right now, evil's big mouth is broadcasting all over the medias, the different mediums of media. That's all the evil and the loud mouth of evil. A loud mouth doesn't usually say the truth. If you have the truth to say, you can say it without screaming. If you're screaming, right away, it minimizes the veracity, the trustworthiness of people listening to you. Okay, Mazel Tov, ladies. We took 3 weeks to do this gigantic parak of Tehillim. It's not so big, but it's so deep. And this is just like, even as much as we learn, there's so much more to learn to it. But I hope, as Hashem, I know on Shabbos, when I say this, I think about you guys. I think about you because we learned it together. When you learn something together with somebody, so you become attached to that teaching. So when I say Shabbos, if I find my mind wandering, I say, hey, get back, come on. This is your special parak of Tehillim.
Well, before I say it, I actually say thank you, Rochel. After I say thank you again, Rochel. Thank you for sharing your Torah with us, because it really has changed it. And I just sent somebody a picture of the flowers that they bought me 3 weeks ago, which is an orchid stem, which I changed the water. And I sent her the message and I said, just listen to this share later, and then you'll understand why I've sent you the picture.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Please don't thank me. It's my privilege to learn with you. Please don't bring me into the picture. This is Hashem's Torah. I'm really just privileged to be able to share it with you. And I'm more grateful to you, believe it or not, than you are to me. Talk to any teacher, they'll tell you the same thing. You're more grateful as being able to have the opportunity to teach, but I'm very, very happy to share with you whatever Hashem gave to me. Hashem keeps me out of trouble by allowing me to teach Torah.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Of course, ask him any questions that you
want. So when I did Derech Hashem, we were told that, there is a possibility if we have to come back that we could do worse. I'm just abbreviating it, that we could, I know that's quite deep, but there is a possibility, like say we couldn't speak, or say we spoke Lashon Hara, maybe we would come back, not able to speak or something, but we could make mistakes in other ways. It's just.
Okay, so the Ramchal would agree that ultimately you're going to fix it. Even if you have an intermediary life that messes up, it's not really messing it up. It's not ultimately messing up anything. In Chassidus, we're taught, the Baal Shem HaKadosh taught, Rabbi Nachman taught, and they were all very well learned in the Ramchal, in the Derech Hashem, that you can't mess up. So it means something else.
Right.
It means something else. It means is an intimate, whatever it means. I'm not an expert on the Ramchal that I can say it to you, and I'm not an expert in anything. I can just say that Rabbi Nachman says we're always going up, even if it doesn't look like that. Maybe it might look like we failed to us, because we don't know the passing score in this life for that particular test.
Right. I often think if we fail one test, or we don't, that we get the other test maybe in a different way, and once we've learned that lesson, then we, if you like, move on. Maybe.
Okay, so now I just want to bring it to our show a little bit. We had beautiful rain. I know in England it's not considered such a great mila. It's not just a great idea, but here we had a drenching rain this morning today in the north and here in Yerushalayim, a good drenching rain. And we're now in a very blessed place. Be'ezrat Hashem, we hope to see revealed blessings soon. Everybody have a good Shabbos. Thank you so much for coming. Have a good Shabbos. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll see you next week. Be'ezrat Hashem.
Thank you.
Lovely, and thank you.